Hi, I'm Kat, or Kitty, but I'm going to start vlogging books that I read throughout the week. So once a week I'm going to try and do at least 3 books. And today I'm going to start with Ironside, City of Fallen Angels, and Radiant Shadows. I hope you guys enjoy this. Okay, so the first book is called Ironside. Ironside is about, well, the first book, Tithe, is about a girl named Kay who's basically, after a party, she finds this hurt fairy in a forest. She helps him, and then basically, as a reward, gets 3 questions that he must answer, no matter what. So she later on sees him, and as a reward for him being a pain in the butt earlier, when she saw him again, she asked for his real name. For those of you who don't know, if you ask a fairy their real name, you have complete control over them every single time you use their name. So if I were to use Billy Bob's name, and I said, Billy Bob, go get me a can of soda, he'd have to get me a can of soda. And so that's what happens with Roybin. Roybin's full name is Rath Roybin Ray. Or Ray Roybin Rath, I can't remember. And so she has his real name. She later on discovers that she's a pixie and has been glamoured really, really heavily so she can be used as Tithe. But not really. They have basically, there's the Unseelie Court and the Seelie Court. The Unseelie Court or the Seelie Court can make a sacrifice to be control over basically nomad fairies. Fairies who aren't a part of a specific court. Because unless they don't have a tithe on time for Halloween. Because if they don't, then those nomad fairies are free for 7 years. So the nomad fairies have Kay, who they glamoured when she was just a baby and switched out for another woman's baby. And she, basically they intend her to use her for the tithe. And then uncover her glamour right before they kill her, so it won't count, and then they'll be free. She decides to help them since she's been friends with some of them for a really long time, since she was just a little kid, so she helps them. On the way, though, she kind of falls in love with Roybin, which is not a very good thing since he's basically the lead knight of the Unseelie Court. Like, basically, he's the right-hand man for the Dark Queen, which is really not good for her because she's supposed to be sacrificed at the Unseelie Court. So she goes and she ends up falling in love with him, but he doesn't know she's a pixie. He still thinks she's human, but then he discovers she's a pixie, which is, I guess, good, not kind of good. I don't know, but when she goes to, they glamour her and she goes to do tithe. She commands him to undo her chains and kill the queen, and he does, which basically sets him free, and then he takes over the throne. That's in the first book. And then in the second book, Ironside, this is the third book technically, because I read the second book, but I didn't really like it because it wasn't focusing on her story. It was some other crap or whatever. Well, now that Roybin is the king of the Unseelie Court, he basically doesn't have anyone controlling her except for her in a way. But, yeah. But she, basically, in a drunken haze, declares her love for Roybin, and it's kind of fairy tradition that if they are to take on a queen or a mate or a king or whatever, that kind of thing, or a consort, they have to do a quest that the king or queen or whoever assigns them. So Roybin, because he has to uphold his court, has to give something really hard, because he knows she was basically drunk. So he gives her the quest of finding a fairy who can't lie, which is basically impossible because, I mean, fairies can't lie. To find a fairy that would lie would be impossible. And so basically Ironside is about her quest to find this fairy and finding real love, and lots of conflicts between courts because the Seelie Queen is not who she seems. For my second book, I have, dropping stuff. I have City of Fallen Angels. Over there. City of Fallen Angels by Cassandra Clare. Sure if I said her name right. The first book City of Bones. It's the Mortal Instruments series, but the first book, City of Bones, is about Clary Frey, who discovers that her mom and her father were demon hunters for this world she had no idea about, and so she's one too, but she never grew up in the society, so she doesn't know how to fight demons yet. She gets found by this demon hunting family, kind of, and there's four kids. One's really young because he's like 10, and there's there's an older brother and an older sister, and then the younger brother, and then there's Jace. But Jace isn't quite a sibling because he was sort of adopted when his father died in a fire when he was a kid. She ends up kind of liking Jace, but something sets her back. Something huge sets her back, but she still kind of loves him, and it's really hard for her. In City of Fallen Angels, it's after the Mortal War, which is, if you read throughout the books, is really important. It just ends up, it's like this huge war between this really bad guy who's actually Clary's dad. Yeah, scary. And named Valentine. And so they have this huge war, but they win, which is really good. And the really awesome part is that she discovers that Jace isn't quite what he seems to be, but in a really good way. So that's really good for them because it could have been really awkward. Okay, so yeah. My next book is Radiant Shadows by Melissa Marr. Oh, by the way, Ironside is by Holly Black. Radiant Shadows is the fourth book in the Wicked Lovely series, which is a really good series, but the first book, Wicked Lovely, is about a girl named Ashlyn who basically has been able to see fairies since she was born. So can her grandma, and her grandma have a code that she cannot let fairies know that she can see them because they could seriously hurt her. Fairies in this book are really not good people. They're really creepy, and they will hurt you, and they will chase you down, and it's not pretty. But most humans can't see them, so it doesn't really make a difference to them. But she can. And then she starts noticing this boy and this really cold, pale-skinned, white-haired girl following her. She starts to freak out. I mean, I would too. But he's really handsome, but she knows he's a fairy, so she's no way, because she hates fairies. She's terrified of them because she thinks they killed her mom, which they sort of did. But, yeah, so she discovers this boy, kind of, who's been following her. His name is Keenan, and he happens to be the Summer King. There's two courts in this book called the Summer Court and the Winter Court, and then there's the Dark Court and the Light Court. But he's the king of the Summer Court, and he's been looking for a queen for 900 years. Basically, he's gone through mortal girl after mortal girl trying to find his queen, because once he chooses a mortal girl, they can't go back. They have to become fate. Either become a winter girl or a summer girl. A winter girl is one who basically does this trial because she thinks she's in love with Keenan to see if she becomes the queen by picking up the Winter Queen's rod. But if the rod denies her, then she turns into the next winter girl and has to try to persuade the next girl Keenan finds to not pick up the rod. A summer girl is one who denies the trial and basically becomes a fae and lives internally in the summer court and can't live without Keenan, which sucks, but they're happy with it. Ashlyn actually discovers that she is the Winter Queen. She is the Summer Queen. She knows it, but she doesn't love Keenan, but she wants to protect their court. So she takes it up and discovers she's the Summer Queen. That's the first book, but throughout the second book is Ink Exchange, which is about her friend and I guess all this other stuff. I didn't really read it because it wasn't about her, and I was reading on my Kindle, and then I forgot to recheck it out, so it left, which is not good, but that's okay. But yeah. And then the third book, which I did read because it's back about her again, is about, it's called Fragile Eternity, and it's about basically her afterwards, what happens and stuff, and basically she feels this undeniable attraction to Keenan, her Summer King, so it's hard to resist him, but she's with Seth, her best friend, who's like 2 years older than her, because she's like 17, he's like 20 or something, but she's in love with him. They're kind of boyfriend girlfriend now, but she still feels this pull. And Seth is kind of really angry. Not angry. He's upset by it because he's just immortal and she no longer is. She's Fae. And so she's going to live forever, and once he's gone, she's just going to go to Kenan, or so he thinks. But, so he's tired of being fragile and unable to be fully accepted by Ash. So he goes to the High Court in search of the High Queen, or the White Queen, or the Light Queen, or whatever you want to call her, so he can become a Fae, to ask her if she can become a Fae. He can become a Fae. He's not female. But, yeah, that's what he does. But he stays there for a month because she does turn him. But the downside, downside, yeah, it's bad, is that 1 month in the fairy where the High Queen lives is 6 months in the real world. And for Ash, who didn't know why he left because they had gotten in a fight and he didn't want to talk to her at the time, but he really still loved her, so he went to the High Court anyways, didn't tell her, and so now she's devastated because she thinks he just left, and she doesn't know what to do anymore, so she kind of turns to Kenan. She says, okay, Seth's gone now, what am I doing? He says, why don't we try it out now, since I have an undeniable attraction to you, because he loves the Winter Queen, but the Winter Queen and him don't really mix because of winter and summer and everything, so he kind of gave it up on her. And so they kind of try it out, but Seth suddenly comes back. And yeah, it's kind of get crazy. That's the end of the book on that one, though. But the next one is Radiant Shadows. And it's about a girl named Annie, I guess. And she's half fairy, half human, basically. And it's about her story in the High Court and kind of fighting for her love for another fairy. But yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I'm excited. But I don't think it's going to be, so I'm probably going to skip it, which is really not nice. But I'm going to do it anyways, because I like the real story. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, because I'm going to be doing it a lot more often, and I hope I get views. Yeah. Probably not, since this is a really crappy video, but nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed it. See you later. Toodles!